GS2 can be divided into two segments: polity, governance, and social justice on the one hand, international relations on the other. Under polity, governance, and social justice, wherever possible, start your answers with constitutional articles. This will convey to the examiner that you have a fundamental idea of the constitutional principles and how they operate. Second, when a question relates to a debatable topic, do mention both sides of the argument before taking a stand. For example, take this question: simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and State Assembly will limit the amount of time and money spent in electioneering, but it will reduce the government accountability. Discuss. For such a question, always talk about both sides of the argument and only in the conclusion take a particular stand of whether you agree or disagree with the statement. Quote data, statistics, and relevant authentic reports to strengthen your points in GS2 answers. Especially for governance and social justice topics, you should be thorough with data on IMR, MMR, malnutrition, out-of-pocket expenditure, and also basic findings of important reports such as ICER, etc., and quote them extensively in your answers. They add support to your arguments. Next, Supreme Court judgments are another important aspect that you need to incorporate in your answers. Make a list of important Supreme Court judgments from history and in recent times, and whenever a relevant topic comes, try to add a Supreme Court judgment on that particular aspect, which can add value to your argument. Apart from judgments, you must remember recommendations of important committees and commissions and mention them in your answers. Usually these are done towards the end of the answer in your conclusion when you present your way forward. Some standard committees and commissions include first and second ARC, Sarkaria and Punchi Commission, Law Commission, NCRWC report, etc. Have the recommendations of these committees handy and by heart, and write them in your answers, especially in your conclusions. So these are the components that you have to incorporate in your polity, governance, and social justice segments to make your answers stand out. Next, we move on to international relations. When you are reading international relations, make sure to understand the historical background of a diplomatic relation between India and a foreign country. You should be aware of the historical treaties, important protocols, and other conventions that India is signatory to. This historical backdrop helps in tackling questions holistically. Some broad categories can be. Also, make your answers multidimensional by adding every aspect of the diplomatic relationship. Some broad categories can be technological, economic, global fora, strategic and defense, educational and cultural exchange, etc. Also, you must be specific in your answer by mentioning the actual names when you are talking about certain areas such as defense equipment. For instance, if you're talking about defense deals, mention the specific equipment such as Apache helicopter or Barak missile or S-400 equipment. In international relations too, maps aid in better comprehension. If there is a question on India-China border dispute, you should draw a diagram and show the disputed areas with China. Similarly, for a question talking about India's strategic investments abroad, if you mention Chabahar port, draw a map and depict its strategic significance for us. Now, these are the broad guidelines for answer writing in GS2. Let us understand these principles through an example. Consider this question that was asked recently. Initially, civil service in India were designed to achieve the goals of neutrality and effectiveness, which seems to be lacking in the present context. Do you agree with the view that drastic reforms are required in civil services? Comment. Now, first thing you have to do is break the question into parts. One is this first part, which says civil services and how goals of neutrality and effectiveness were ensured. Second, it is asking us for a view. Do you agree with the view? So this has both pros and cons in the main body. And finally, in the conclusion, you present a way forward. So you start your introduction with Article 312 of the Constitution, how it establishes civil services. And you discuss how neutrality and effectiveness are ensured through instruments such as Article 315, 311 subsection 1 and 311 subsection 2. And All India Service Conduct Rules, which help in objective behavior for civil servants. Then you address a part of the question dealing with whether drastic reforms are needed. Since it is debatable, always try to argue both sides of the case. So in the first part, we say why drastic reforms are needed. So we discuss corruption, reasons such as corruption, excessive red tapeism, politicization, and APAR, how they are evaluated for their performance. You also throw in the relevant statistics and reports to strengthen your point. Then we move on to this other side of the argument, which includes why drastic reforms can be detrimental. Once that is done, you move to the way forward, under which you quote recommendations from important committees such as Surendranath, HOTA and ARC2 committees. You discuss specific recommendations, civil service board, training, performance appraisal, domainization. So that is multi-dimensional, expansive, and at the same time very specific. So this is how you conclude the answers with a broad statement of how this can ensure a 21st century bureaucracy for a 21st century India.